Hey, what is up everyone? I'm Axel, and today I am very much glad to be talking about Nioh 3. It finally happened. We are setting our sights on the future, on Nioh 3's release in early 2026. The alpha demo is out and I have come to talk about everything that I think is relevant about it and my impressions and feedback regarding the demo. Of course, this demo is an alpha, so it is not representative of the full game, and if you look back to Nioh 1 alpha, or pre-alpha rather, and Nioh 2 alpha, you can see that they were very limited compared to what we got afterwards, especially in regards to the Nioh 1 pre-alpha. Much was changed from that version to the beta, and then the full game. I have like over 4,000 hours on Nioh 1 and 2. Most of them, of course, speedrunning and challenge running. I hope that is enough to show that I really care about these games and I know what makes these games great and what they can improve upon them. So yeah, here we go. Okay, so the first major change that we're gonna notice from the previous Nioh 1 and 2 is that we are talking about an open world experience this time around. We get a taste of it on the alpha, but it's not going to be the full experience. We're not gonna be able to know for sure how the full game is gonna feel in terms of like how big the map is gonna be, how it's gonna feel to go through all of it on the full game. We don't know, but my impressions on this map are pretty positive. I am not either in favor or against open world, but it does feel pretty good. The mission system is still there. It's just like when you progress through the game, we are gonna be just going around the map, but at the same time when you go to the shrine, you can go to the mission scrolls, I think they're called mission scrolls, and select a mission that you want if you want to replay any mission. So yeah, that's pretty nice. But yeah, let's get on with the next topic. The second major change is the fact that now we have Samurai style and Ninja style. So Ninja style is a new addition. You can access it by tapping R2 in this alpha. I'll talk about this input and how I feel about it later. But yeah, basically the Ninja style doesn't have stances or keeples. It has a different mechanic. Instead of like pressing R1, triangle, square or X to switch stances or flaxing, you just use ninjutsu. Furthermore, back attacks and grapple damage are increased in this, and it does seem from the alpha that it is gonna be more about like faster weapons, faster combos, but we don't know to what degree. In this demo we have sword, spear, odachi for the samurai, and dual ninja swords, talons, and kusarigama for the ninja. There has been some findings from Out of Bounds that point towards other weapons and how they might be incorporated, but we don't know all the details, and I'm not gonna talk too much about it because it is still an alpha and we don't know to what degree those findings are relevant towards the full game plans. But I would very much like to see all the weapons come back. Other changes is that now instead of living weapon like in Nioh 1 or yokai shift like in Nioh 2, we have living artifact. This living artifact behaves in a similar way to living weapon from Nioh 1, but it does look way cooler. And it has differences between ninja style and samurai style, while also have some guardian spirits that are going to be focused on ninja style and others on samurai style. And the same is going to apply for the living artifact, of course. So, you know, depending on the weapon that you have and the style that you're using, the appearance of that living artifact is going to change. It looks cool, but we'll talk about what could be done about this a bit later. With that said, let's get on with the feedback. Before I do that though, let me point out that this is just my impressions on how the game could be improved. I'm not saying at any point that I feel like the game is looking bad. In fact, I think it's looking great, but I want it to look amazing and feel amazing and be the best game that it can be. Now, the early game progression in this alpha is something that I've noticed is a bit annoying, so to speak, okay? With that, what I mean is that we are back to how we began in Nioh 1, with being locked to mid stance. And in this case, you can keep pulse, but we don't have access to high stance or low stance. So, it doesn't feel great compared to how they did Nioh 2, which is we start with all stances, as it should be. But not only that, in this alpha, when you do get past the first mission, you unlock the capability to learn skills, right? And then the moment that you manage to get a skill point, then you are able to unlock, using those skill points, low stance, high stance, and all those other things. I have a bit of a problem with that, which is that not only are they locking our gameplay to mid stance at the start of the game, but also they're slowing down our progress after that, and we don't have like high stance, low stance until we learn those by spending skill points. I think that is a mistake. It's just gonna make things feel worse early game, and there's no real reason to have that to be like that. So now we're talking about skills, let's talk about the skill system. In this alpha, we do have a few unlocked skills on different weapons, like for example, on Odachi, we have Moonlit Snow already at the start, and Cuckoo's Call, which is something that I have seen on Nioh 2, at least, from what I remember, in some of the demos. And then when the Nioh 2 released, we just had basically like high stance, low stance, mid stance, and just keep pulsing, and that's it. And everything else was just unlocked by getting more skill points and spending those. In this case, we are given those in order to maybe feel like we have more options, but honestly I would rather have the stances to begin with and then unlock the other skills. Now, speaking about skills, with the skill system I've noticed a few issues, and this is also relevant to the style switch, so I'm gonna talk about it together. In this demo we have most skills be attached to quick into heavy, like square into triangle, hold triangle, forward triangle, backward triangle, and that kind of input, okay? And you might be wondering like what's on block plus triangle and square? What about triangle into square, strong or heavy into quick? What about those? So none of those are present, but L1 plus square in this alpha is the Guardian Spirit skill, which acts somewhat of a replacement of the yokai abilities. At least it looks like that's the case. And what I don't understand is why is it on L1 plus square and then also triangle. We don't have access to that one in the demo, but I've seen that. To me, that doesn't make much sense, especially when you have the style switch to be tapping R2 as a toggle. I've seen other people talk about this as well, but I really don't understand why they would do it like this. And while I say that, I'm confident that with enough people talking about this on their feedback, we should be able to make Team Ninja see that we want and kind of need R2 to be a hold button in order to use more inputs. So it would be like a yokai shift in Nioh 2 with R2 circle to be the burst counter, then the other face buttons would be for yokai abilities. So we could do the same thing here, where R2 circle is a style switch, R2 triangle and R2 square Guardian Spirit skills, with R2X being free for other functions, which could also be used to counter without switching style. Now, once we do that, that means that the block plus face buttons would be free to be used for other skills. And in my honest opinion, before we introduce directional inputs for skill usage, we should look at the block plus triangle and block plus square, hold a square, triangle into square, all that stuff. And then after all of that, we can discuss about adding directional inputs. I know that some action games cultists are not worried about this and are very used to it, but the way I see it is if you can do the other ones, there's no reason to use directional inputs before the other ones with a more reliable way to input that function. I've talked about yokai abilities from Nioh 2, and in Nioh 3 we do have soul cores, but the way they function is different. And it is slightly concerning because it seems like they have mixed yokai abilities and magic. Now every time that you get a soul core, you can slot it in one or two places, you know, the yin and the yang, in order to either get a summon, like Yorimitsu from Nioh 2's second DLC did, or to get a magic. I am a bit worried about this because I feel like there was nothing wrong with the magic skill tree being a thing, but they might have felt like this system would allow them to control what people have at any point as they progress through the game. With that said, it does feel more limiting. I'm not a big fan of this. We'll see how it works. It is also something that I'm not extremely worried about, but it just doesn't feel that great. Now, as I explained about ninja style, we don't have stances, we don't have keep pulsing, and instead we have ninjutsu and bigger ki recovery. I don't feel too good about ninja style. I don't think it's like terrible, but it just doesn't click the same, right? I think as long as we get to play with all the weapons on samurai style, I think we could be okay with ninja style the way it is. But I feel like the ninja style doesn't have enough complex systems to it with the ninjutsu and the combo system that they have right now to really feel good in comparison to samurai. It is a different playstyle, but they could do something a bit more different. And since we're talking about the ninja style, we could argue that maybe they could focus a bit more on making the style more combo focused, maybe reducing a little bit the key usage, but then also extending the capability of making combos, make it feel a bit more like an action game. Of course, that would mean that it would be kind of harder to balance, but I feel like we have to have something a bit different, a bit more extra, to make up for the fact that we don't have flaxing, we don't have stances. And when I say this, I mean that we could have a combat system specific for the ninja style that would take into account the inputs during the combo. For example, we could have dual swords with a square triangle resulting in God of Wind, doing square triangle would result in Cherry Blossom, and square triangle that would give us a spinning dragon. Besides other types of inputs like triangle square, hold square, and directional inputs, of course. What it lacks from not having multiple stances, you can make it up with more intricate combo strings. Speaking about combos and weapons, we don't know for sure, but from what we have seen officially from the alpha and from the trailer that they have shown, we know that some weapons at least are gonna be both in samurai and in ninja style. We know that because we see sword in the ninja style in a part of the trailer, and then also with dual swords it says dual ninja swords, so it makes me think that there's gonna be also dual samurai swords, right? But here's the thing, not only we don't know how many weapons are, we don't know to what degree we're gonna have a convergence of, yes, you can use this weapon for this style and you can use it also on the other style. I don't want to see something like this is a ninja sword and this is a samurai sword, because then you separate even more weapons from themselves. It's like double the amount of weapons, but not in a good way, because you could have make it so the same type of weapon can be applied on samurai style and ninja style. If I had to bet, I would say that there's gonna be at least most of the weapons that are going to be in both samurai and ninja style, and also any weapon that is on both styles, you can equip it on either of them. But I don't know for sure, and I feel like I need to talk about this just to expose that I'm worried about this, and I'm not the only one who's worried about this. Yeah, here it is. Now, since we are talking about the samurai style, there's one thing that I haven't explained, and that is you can deflect in this game. So now on Samurai you can deflect and dodge. We will see how that plays. Hopefully we don't feel too forced to deflect on many places. I feel like in terms of regular enemies, you're completely fine without deflecting if it's more convenient. But I feel like against some bosses, you definitely have an edge if you deflect. And if you don't deflect, it sometimes feels really bad to try to dodge. We will see how that goes. I'm just hoping that if there is some bosses that you kind of want to really deflect them, it's just some of them and not like almost all of them. In that regard, the variety of how to approach a fight is very important. If we don't feel forced to abuse the deflect and instead it's just like an extra tool that we can get advantage of, then that'll be good. Now there's one extra mechanic from the Samurai style, which is the Weapon Arts Proficiency, I think it was called. Basically, when you deflect, attack, and hit, and also do skills and strong attacks, you build up a meter on the Samurai stances in the center of it. And you can use it by pressing triangle, using a skill or a strong attack, and that would buff your attacks while making you not consume ki or make you consume less ki. I think that is a neat addition. I feel like there's gonna be a way to control when you want to use it a bit better rather than just pressing the triangle. Maybe with the R2X potentially. I don't know if that would be better, that would be worse, but it's an idea that I throw out there. Now, besides this, there's one more mechanic that they have introduced to Samurai, which is the Frost Moon. Frost Moon is a mechanic where on high stance, mid stance, and low stance, after you key pulse or flux 1 or flux 2, you can repeat the last input that you use. Like for example, if you're on high stance, you key pulse flux to mid and then flux to low. You press R1X again, then we'll get Frost Moon Earth, which is an evasive maneuver while attacking. And the same thing with the other ones. In mid stance you get like a counter maneuver, which is tricky but really powerful to pull off if you counter at the same time. And then on high stance, of course, you have like a power maneuver where you get hyper armor and you also get like a powerful blow. Not super powerful, but it is pretty powerful. I am a big fan of this mechanic. And I did found a kind of like a glitch or bug with it when you were buffed by the Weapon Arts. And on high stance Odachi, you could just spam the Frost Moon Heaven, which is the one on high stance. And while it does seem like a bug, I feel like to some degree we could actually use something like this. Maybe not spamming the same one, although I wouldn't mind it honestly. Some people might call it cheesy, but I feel like there's other options that you could use, using another skill and the like. I don't feel like it's that strong. We have gotten like way stronger things in the past regarding mechanics. But yeah, maybe if you were to say, okay, let's not spam the same stance, let's just make it so you can do Frost Moon Heaven, and then you do Frost Moon Earth, and then Frost Moon Humanity, and you alternate between them. I'm not too sure about this, honestly. I feel like it was pretty fun to use. I wouldn't mind it if it did go away, this feature slash bug, but I think it would be like pretty cool to have it around. I don't think it's like game breaking or anything like that. We have like way more broken mechanics. For example, let's just say the topic of spamming things. You can just, like you have seen me do multiple times in Nioh 2 speedruns, you can do Titanic Strength from high to low. You don't even need flux 2, just flux 1 is enough, and you just stand the boss. We have gotten like way more broken mechanics, and they have been completely fine. I wouldn't call it super broken, I would say it's like just a way to keep pressure on. But you know, some people might feel like it's too cheesy, but I disagree. Now, since I've been talking about what happened in Nioh 1 and 2, I do not know how they want to approach this, but one of the things that I really didn't like from Nioh 1 and 2 is the necessity to do tutorials to unlock more skills instead of just playing the game normally. Like by tutorials I mean the dojos. I think that you could merge like the veteran dojo and the last dojo of each weapon, you can make it work, and that's the way to get the last few skills. I wouldn't mind that, right? But I don't think they're gonna do it in Nioh 3. I'm not too sure to what degree dojos are gonna be a thing. We're probably gonna have some dojos. We have the dojo after all in the tutorial, you can see it, but we don't know to what degree those dodges are gonna be used. And just in case I'm putting it out there, I don't like being gate-kept from more skills just by doing like a glorified tutorial. If I am locked from getting more skills, I want it to be like a challenge. It wouldn't be like, in order to get something super basic, you would need to have the novice dojo and then the adept and then the veteran. It's like too many stop gates. In the topic of learning skills, of course, the other thing that I didn't like about Nioh 1 and 2, especially 2, we do have a lot of hidden skills that you need to farm. And I hate that. Mainly because I feel like farming should be dedicated to get better equipment. Some sets, some bonuses or whatever. Something that is not, strictly speaking, about the moveset. When we're talking about people who want to use all the moves, we don't want to farm that. I feel like, at least I don't. I know I don't want to farm for skills in order to have the whole moveset. I want to get challenges for them. I want to get them via rewards. I want to do a specific challenge or something like that to unlock that skill. Now, the way they have done it apparently in Nioh 3 is that we have two ways to get more skills in this alpha. One is by sniping Chijikos, which are some cute ferrets. It's like the new mascot of Nioh 3. And then petting them. And then they will give you like an upgrade skill or an alternative version of a skill. Like maybe it will imbue it with water, it will make it faster, it will imbue it with lightning, all that stuff, right? So that's one way. I think that's okay. It's actually a pretty decent idea, I would say. I think there are better ways to do it, but I'm fine with it. And now the other one that I actually have an issue with is the Crucible skills. Crucible skills do feel like it's the closest to what the hidden skill farm is in Nioh 2. And that is basically when you are entering a Crucible, you can fight a bunch of yokai, enemies in general. And then they might drop a Crucible weapon. So if it is a weapon that you didn't get before, you said you didn't get a Crucible sword before, you can equip it, and then you'll be able to use that skill. For example, like Flowing Shadow. Now, not only you need to farm for that, is that in order to actually unlock it, you need to get max familiarity with that weapon. Now, this step can be forced to progress by a whetstone if they give us the whetstones. I see no reason why they wouldn't, but I haven't seen it in this alpha. But the thing that actually triggers me with this is that we are still talking about farming for a hidden skill, or in this case a Crucible skill. I am really much against that. So if they really want to implement this system, I would just ask them for one thing. Like, they don't have to make like a big change or anything like that. Just to make sure that for every single Crucible skill with the respective Crucible weapons, you can go to some specific point of the game or do any specific mission, whatever it is. You do that and then you get that Crucible weapon as a reward 100%. That's all I'm asking. I think there are better ways to do this. I don't think the Crucible weapons is like the best thing to do because we still have to deal with reaching max familiarity in order to actually unlock the skill. I would very much rather have fight that you need to do in order to get that skill 100% of the times. But if they really want to push forward this Crucible weapon mechanic with the Crucible skills, definitely we need to have like a 100% guarantee reward or drop or whatever in some place of the game. Don't force the players to farm in order to get like a specific skill. Now, speaking about forcing the player, we gotta talk about the early game progression once again. This time not so much about how we progress, get more skills or stronger or whatever. This time is about tutorial pop-ups. They have been a plague in games lately. I fucking hate tutorial pop-ups. Doesn't matter if I'm doing a speedrun, doesn't matter if I'm doing a challenge run, doesn't matter if I'm doing a casual playthrough. I hate it. It's terrible. If you really must have tutorial pop-ups, give us an option to skip them. The way I see it is, if the player doesn't want to do tutorials, you should never force the player to go through those tutorials. This happened in Wolong, but it has been quite an experience in Nioh 3 Alpha, and I don't want to experience this again. Now, speaking about forcing players on the early game again, there is one instance in the Alpha where after you beat the first boss, you are forced to walk for about 15 to 17 seconds, something like that. Yeah, this is also not great. I think like forcing the player to walk, like to not go at their pace, is also really bad. It feels terrible, especially when it's prolonged. Some of the worst examples for this, or the best examples, depending on how you look at it, are Monster Hunter Wilds, God of War 2018 and Ragnarok, and Final Fantasy 16. Really long force walk sections. Cold Bane also comes to mind. Yeah, we don't want that. They are okay in movie games, like games that are about the story and that's it. They're not focused on the action. But on games where they are focused on the action, they make no sense. If you really want to listen to what the NPC is talking about, you will do it yourself. You don't need to be forced to walk. Because if you're forced to walk, you're not inconveniencing the player who wants to listen to the NPC talk, but you are annoying the player who just wants to play the game. Now, I will mention that in regards to the weapons, we do have two styles, right? Samurai style and ninja style. But it seems they have decided that we don't need to equip two weapons per style. I feel like that's a mistake. I don't know if they did it just to see how people would react to that, because maybe they didn't decide on how to do things exactly and they're working on it. But the R1 up and R1 down on the D-pad don't have any feature, they don't do anything. So yeah, I would like to see those slots coming back. We still want to do samurai combos, we still want to have this change on the combat. If you have two weapons that you really like on samurai and two weapons that you really like on ninja, you can just switch between them on the fly and you don't need to menu look for the other weapon that you want to try or you want to play around for a while and then go back. It's just limiting the players for no real reason, and we shouldn't really have that. It is basically a downgrade. We want to be able to equip two weapons per style. I would argue even like 3 weapons would be nice, but you know, maybe it's too much. We had 2 in the other ones, in Nioh 1 and 2, and we want to have 2 in this one without changing styles. So yeah, that would be like an upgrade. If they bring that back, because then you have access to 4 weapons without entering the menu. So yeah, definitely bring that back. Now, when in this alpha you want to collect skills, it doesn't work the same way as in Nioh 1 and 2, where when you level up or when you fight, you know, you gain proficiency and skill points. In this one, you might get some proficiency by fighting, but it definitely goes way too slow for that. So instead of that, you just get skill points by going around the map and getting samurai locks or ninja locks. I'm hoping that is not the case in the full game, and we can actually just fight our way to get more skill points more effectively. Skill points being tied to the exploration feels odd and doesn't feel like it should be like this. So I would prefer if that was not the case and we would be more dependent on fighting in order to get those skill points. Now let's talk about the living artifact. The living artifact seems to be an upgrade in terms of looks to the living weapon, but it does feel like it falls short in movesets. There is no quick into strong or strong into quick or anything like that. We have hold triangle and that's about it. Like we have quick attacks and hold triangle. We definitely would like to see more moves to the living artifact. Not asking for stances, although it'll be pretty nice. But yeah, if we could have some more skills, some more moves, so it feels a bit better, it'll definitely be very much welcome. Because right now it just feels very button mashy and not that satisfying. Now finally, I have a couple of extra feedback that might not be super important, but I feel like it would be like pretty cool to have. And that is a customization of the HUD or the UI, you know, like the HP, key bar, all that stuff. You can put the different elements of the game in different places and change the size of those elements. I consider it something that nowadays we should see more often in games. But there's one other thing that, well, of course it is not necessary. I think it was like a really cool thing that I saw they did in God of War Ragnarok, which is adding the option to show the controller with the inputs that you're doing, or the keyboard, I guess you could also add if it's on PC. I'm not expecting them to do it, but if they do it, it would be really cool. Okay, so that's the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think about the alpha. What do you guys think about the feedback that I've shared? I have not shared all the feedback, but I've shared the most important things, and I feel like this game has the potential to be the ultimate Nioh experience. And I hope that by listening to the players' feedback, which of course Team Ninja has done in the past quite a bit, that's why they released these demos, then the game can escalate from great to absolutely amazing masterpiece. So yeah, with that said, see you around. Bye bye.